Hello, folks. Welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you're doing well, staying safe. Hope you had an excellent new year. Hope if you have the day off today, you're recovering and you've got plans for 2023. Because this is the first episode of Between Awesome and Disaster for the year of 2023. And I am excited. Like the New Year's, like I don't really do resolutions because I feel like that just kind of sets up for failure. What I tend to like create like lists of goals or things I'd like to accomplish. As I feel like that's more of a I feel like that's more tenable. Like if New Year's resolutions to me, I always feel like if you don't do it, then like the year is a failure or you fall off at a certain point. To me, goals aren't. Not only can they roll into if it takes a long time into the next year, but they are an ongoing list of things, of goalposts, of things to like strive and to look forward to. So that's what I try to do. I try to do goals, and some of my goals for this year, other than continuing to put out this podcast weekly and get it in front of more people, get it to continue to grow it. I want to start. I want to get back into playing team sports in some capacity. Not saying I'm not going to be a professional athlete, but I want to be a little bit more active. That's just a general goal I have for myself as someone. I just want to. I want to. I enjoy life and I want to be here for it as much as possible, and just want to create more things. Last year I put out my solo acoustic EP that I had been pontificating on for years and that I had recorded, so I was very happy to do that. This year maybe definitely want to put out some singles, and then I'll also want to try shooting at least a sketch, getting something written, a script written. That's something I've been saying I want to do for years. I want to sit down and do it. And the 2023 I feel like is not my year, because that's notoriously set up for just sheer anarchy to befall anyone who says that. But I am, as I've often said, I'm cautiously optimistic and excited to do things. Feeling a lot better about myself and been feeling a lot better like lately. Just feel like more like alert and ready to take on the day. So I'm excited about it. And I'm excited to share our first episode. We're very closely coming up on 300 episodes of this podcast, which I'm so happy about. And I have a great guest, a great episode for episode 300. But I also have a great episode for you today. My guest on the show today is a comedian, Sunny Outlaw. Sunny and I met recently. He was a cast member of the most recent Backdoor Barbecue show at the People's Improv Theater, and we got to chatting during the rehearsal process, as well as the hanging out and performing after performing the show process. And he's a sketch performer, improviser, stand-up comic, kind of, again, like one of those jacks of all trades, which I feel like is kind of like the default for entertainer nowadays. Like no one is just one thing. Like I know very few folks who are just a stand-up comic, just an actor, just a musician. There's a broad range of mediums to work in, and as I get older and continue to do new things and be excited about it, I just get more and more jazzed for new possibilities. So I am really looking forward to sharing this week. Sunny's a younger guy than me, and I just met him, and he's relatively new to New York. So I always love getting that kind of perspective, because it reminds me of when I first moved here in 2010 into my tiny Sunset Park room, well before gentrification really took on in the neighborhood, and it reminds me of those times and what I'm excited about. So looking forward to sharing this with you guys. Link to Sunny's YouTube channel is in the description, and if you enjoyed this, I will have more for you in the year of 2023. So thanks for being here, and let's chat with Sunny Outlaw, everyone. Yeah, that's perfect, man.
Okay, great.
Yeah, absolutely. We're doing it.
We're doing the thing.
Yeah, doing the thing. Recording making the content, as the kids say. I hate that phrase though. I don't know about you, but I feel like I hate the phrase content creator and content creation and referring to art as content, because I feel like it inherently devalues it in some way.
Yeah, I don't like the term content creator either. Yeah, I don't know what's so weird about it. It just why aren't they just an artist?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, because I feel like some, well, people who call themselves artists get like really defensive, or kind of like up at arms, sensitive about that label, and then you start getting into that sort of idea of like what even is art. Um, and I don't know if I always know the answer, but I do. It does seem like there is a distinction being made between art and entertainment that I don't think has to be made, because stuff can be you can make very high quality artful stuff that is engaging. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And actually, as you were talking, what I was thinking about, like my cousin, he always says he's always like, "Yo, you need to make videos where you're reviewing stuff. That's where the views are at. That's where the views are at."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yes, I want views, but I don't want to just get views. Like I want to make art that actually impacts people. And he
Uh-huh.
was talking to me about how there's a whole YouTube channel on just smashing cars, or like cars get smashed, or someone just like takes a hammer and smashes stuff. And
Uh-huh.
I guess that's probably the distinction. Like if you're the guy that's posting things about them being smashed and it's not really art, then yeah, you're a content creator. You are creating content. But I think so many times it's referred to like someone doing a vlog.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that's why, like, I feel like you can make distinctions, like vlogger, like is a perfectly like apt distinction within like the general space. The same way there's filmmakers, and then there's like script writers and TV writers, and lots of people. You can do like the multi hyphenate is the norm now. So like you can like work with in all these kinds of different disciplines. I compare it to a friend of mine said it's like you have like a visual artist, and maybe, or a painter, and a painter can work in watercolors, a painter can work in oils, painter can work in mixed mediums. Like it's all kind of in the same umbrella, but just the sort of like just the phrase content creator just makes me like, it feels cheap in a way. Like it feels like there's like, maybe you could get like a very nice keychain that's been like shaped, like carved from wood, and then like has your initials burned into it, and then you can get a cheap uh like a cheap mass produced thing too.
Yeah, and honestly, I think a lot of the public tries to turn artists into content creators. The amount of times people have told me to post more, you should be posting more.
Mhm.
Did you see what that kid did? TikTok, YouTube, and it's like, hey, will you relax? Like,
Mhm.
need to figure out what I actually want to put out and put it out to my voice. And I think people just think that the path of an artist is the exact same path as a content creator.
Mhm.
And and truthfully, I think they can be similar, but they're also very different.
Mhm. Yeah, well, because I feel like uh one is like maybe inherently along the lines of, one is more commercial, and then one isn't. I feel like, and I don't know how old you are, but I have a feeling that you're probably younger than me. I feel like you're probably of like the generation that's probably going to be more adept to these, to like what to the new things, and how they work to like work them to their full potential, like TikTok with like short videos, and being funny really quickly, and being funny in a way that people really want to like share stuff, because again, that's the whole thing. The joke phrase I've been saying for years and trying to go viral is try to trend the shareables.
Yeah, yeah. I'm 29, and
Okay.
so I think that is like just a little bit younger than you, but not like
Yeah.
terribly.
Yeah, I'm 36, so
Yeah,
we're not too far off.
and what I did during 2020, I got told to download TikTok. So I downloaded TikTok and I
Mhm.
posted this video, like my roommate trying to like scramble, like toss the egg with the pan or whatever,
Uh-huh.
because he thought it would go viral. It was okay, it was whatever.
Mhm.
But the thing that I did on TikTok was I watched the living crap out of it. I could not stop. I got addicted. I loved it. I don't love it as much anymore because it's changed so much. But
Mm-hmm.
during 2020, it was so much fun. And I really didn't post that much. And I saw so many people that I didn't even think were really that great
Mm-hmm.
get famous just because they kept posting. They kept it up and they kept doing it. And
Yes.
not only that, I also learned a lot about just as an audience what I really care about
Mm-hmm.
because I spent hours on that app. So whenever I'm like posting my own videos now, keep in mind if I was watching this, when would I turn it off?
Right. Like you start thinking about like yourself as a consumer as well, and like what do you hate and what are your pain points again as another industry term. No, I got you. Okay, so you're 20. So you're 29. So you're born. You were born in the 90s then probably.
I was.
Okay, so so 29, that means you're born in 1990, like 92. I
Very close, 1993.
Oh, okay, 1993. Okay, so like you are like, because I was still alive like in the like tail end of Reaganomics and like the just say no era. So I'm always curious. So like growing up in the 90s, like does 90s culture feel like nostalgic for you know? Because I feel like we work on 30-year cycles of nostalgia, and so like when I was in elementary school, there was like all this nostalgia for the 50s, and like Grease was popular amongst my kids. So what was like, is 90s culture kind of like kitsch now for your age range?
A lot of people, I don't think I really subscribe as much to it because I don't even remember 2000. Like literally in my memory, I remember like going to preschool. It was like 1999 or something, and I remember just waking up, you know how you do as a kid when you're like going in and out of consciousness,
Sure.
right? And I just wake up and it's the year 2000. So I don't even remember when we transitioned from there, but I was only like 6 years of the 90s, my formative years.
Uh-huh.
That's not as nostalgic to me, but I do subscribe to some of it, like Super Smash Brothers, Nintendo 64,
Right.
Nickelodeon, and those cartoons, and some
Sure.
of that stuff I do really like. But there's some people that are around my age range or even a little older that really love the 90s. And what really has surprised me about getting older, when I was younger and people would like talk crap about my generation because we were the millennials, we were the
Uh-huh.
young. They would talk crap about us. I always was like, wow, we'll never be like them. And I am so surprised at how hardcore millennials have gone at Gen Z. Like my age range of people, where I was like, I thought we were above this.
Right.
And they're like attacking Gen Z even worse. I feel like that we were being attacked.
No, I know what you mean, because and that's when I've started to realize like, oh, this isn't like a generational thing. This is just like an age thing. Like this is just like at a certain point, somebody younger is doing is going to seem odd, is going to seem alien to you, and you're going to yell about it. I mean, me and like my other most of my friends are like my age, although I would say I'm like an older millennial. So like when it comes to Gen Z, like we thought, like we still, like we were raised by the tail end of like boomers and the tail end of the like suck it up bootstrap deal fit. Like we were the first to recognize, oh, mental health is actually like a thing that you should be aware of and monitor and take care of. And then we also still have the like, I would never call out because I felt sad, but I feel like that happens more in Gen Z, and I know that because I've seen it, because I know people who work with with Generation Z.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that seems odd to me. But the other thing that I've also I latch onto is anytime anybody starts yelling about like what real comedy or real music is, really what they're saying is, I miss being young, healthy, with no responsibilities.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. So whatever's going on from like, I don't know, maybe like 16 to like mid late 20s, that's like the defining era for you. And then that's what you're going to latch onto. So anything that differs from that is like, well, back in my day, we weren't hyper popping on the TikToks, or what have you. Like whenever people go on about like grunge or like 80s hair metal, there's just a missing of the that's their good old days. I feel
Yeah.
like they're fun for.
Yeah, and it's you put it so well, Will. I mean, everything you just said was like A1 description. I really think that people should relax.
Mm-hmm.
And comedy, it was not greater back in the day. I mean, it was amazing, just like music was amazing, and music is still amazing, and comedy's still amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a matter of finding it. I mean, even I'm a big sports watcher, and I do a
Yeah.
lot of sports analogies. The NFL, it used to be a defensive league. Run the ball. Your quarterback doesn't matter as long as they don't do a lot of turnovers.
Sure.
But just this year, like it was slowly shifting, but this year it has become such an offensive league. And
Mm-hmm.
the people that aren't keeping up with it, they fall behind. I've seen the teams this year that have fallen behind because they have chosen not to keep up. Players that you thought were once great, or coaches you once thought were great, are not as great anymore. But it's also because the level of competition is getting better as we evolve. So music for me now has become almost intimidating to listen to because I don't even know what to listen to. Like I met back in my day, we had hip hop, rock, and
Uh-huh.
alternative. You are done. Now there's so much music, so much genre, so much indie stuff. I don't even know what to focus on. But I
Mm-hmm.
do know that the guitar players that are out right now are just as good as some of the best in the 70s, and they're not going to
Mm-hmm.
get recognized. There are comedians out right now that are probably way better than some of the best of like comedians in the 70s that are just open micers. And I know that some people might be like, "Oh, that's not true. There's no way because some people from the 70s are really great." I just think that that's how the natural evolution. That's how natural evolution just works.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree, and I'm hoping to. I try to keep my ear to the streets so that I don't become like one of those like complainer comedians that is just like always like that's just like I've got a problem with things like the way things are like I got off the ride and everyone left me behind. So to ask you a little bit about that, and do you want me to call you Sunny or Cindy?
Oh yeah, Sunny. Sunny is great.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah,
I thought so, but I just wanted to make sure because I like that we're in this because like we know we've worked together, but we don't know each other super well yet.
not
So
yet.
that's what I like these kinds of chats. So kind of talking about again these sort of like these glory days era. So for you, what was that? What were you consuming around that era? If we're talking about like early 2000s, so if N64, what was like the seminal culture that you were exposed to during your good old days, as it were.
Definitely. In my good old days, like comedy wise, just in content, anything.
Anything? What grabbed you? I want because I have very clear moments of like definitive come to Jesus moments. I kind of call them. I remember the first time I heard punk rock, and that was like oh my god. I remember the first time I saw like stand up that was not like storytelling or Jeff Foxworthy. Like what were some of those things that were like remember really
Oh,
grabbing you?
let's get controversial right off the top, Will. I remember my very first time listening to one of Kanye's albums,
Okay.
and it was My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in Indianapolis. There was not a lot to do in Indianapolis
Uh huh.
when you were a high schooler. This is not
Right.
like New York City where you can just walk everywhere. So one thing that we would do is we would like walk to Myers or Target or
Mm-hmm.
some sort of stores that were like a 10-15 minute walk away from us, but there's not like clear pedestrian paths,
Yeah.
right? So you have to
So
like,
you're like walking along the side of the shoulder of the road.
yeah, sometimes it's the shoulder of the road. Sometimes we had to walk over the train tracks and all that
Uh huh.
stuff. And it was just classic Midwestern stuff. And one of my best friends was like, Kid Cudi just came out with a new album and I want to buy it. He wanted to get a CD, which in that time was still kind of acting retro and vintage because we all just illegally pirated stuff. I mean, Spotify had just kind of come out and it wasn't even what it is today.
Right. Like music streaming wasn't easy enough that it made piracy irrelevant yet.
Yes.
But like we were starting to move away from physical media, but we didn't have like a legal solution yet. Okay.
And so he went and went out to get the Kid Cudi album, and then he also ended up buying Kanye's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And since he had bought them, what I would do is I would take the CDs and I would rip them onto my computer, which young kiddos, if you're listening to this, is when you download the music from the CD. And
I got you. I remember a time when you had to download podcast episodes from iTunes Music and then put them on your iPod. So I got what you're putting down.
Oh yeah, I remember that too. And I remember when you had the burn CDs, so you could
Yeah.
you only had those 16 tracks. But he bought it, and so I was listening to the albums, and I remember listening to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and that was the first time I'd ever listened to an album beginning to end, and I was like, this is phenomenal, and it changed my perspective. And that album is the reason why I listen to albums from beginning to end. And why I focus so hardcore on just watching a project, like from the very beginning moments all the way to like the ending credits kind of moments, because I just want to see what they can like fully put together.
Yeah, like what is the full scope of this artistic vision? I'm hip to that. Do you feel have you had to reevaluate any of that stuff in light of where Kanye's kind of gone with things he's said and done?
I never wanted to be one of the people that said that they liked the old Kanye. I always was willing to like, go for it and whatnot. I mean, I'm never going to deny the influence and the music that he's had on me. I love the guy,
Sure.
But it hurts. It's kind of painful. It's like one of these things where it's like, it's like I did all I could. I can't do it anymore. Go.
I know what you know what I mean? I know
like,
what you mean. Like you can't deny the influence because like that's always gonna be there. I know what you mean, but it's tough to get off the train. Like the first time like I remember really hearing long form storytelling stand up was Bill Cosby himself, and that guy's take, that like that sort of kind of like long form like story, like how do you tell a funny story? That was like he was like the first guy I would like listen to and like, oh, okay, here's how you do a long bit and have jokes along the way. So it's different. I have that influence. It's just, I can't co-sign any of what he is because he's a monster. Okay. So, all right. So we're fully, and where and you were in Indianapolis?
Yeah, I was in Indianapolis.
And what kind of city is Indianapolis? I feel like I haven't met a ton of people from Indiana. Is Indianapolis like a medium-sized city?
Yeah.
College town? Like what's the vibe?
Not really a college town, though. It's kind of becoming one more so now. It's a bigger city. There's a lot of more room now that I know what New York is like. It's just a lot more room, and it's chill, I guess. It's a chill city. Like people there are very nice, and I think there's a perception of the Midwest sometimes being conservative, and because they're conservative, they're probably mean, and that's not really the case. Like it's a lot more of a mixture, Indianapolis, like 50-50, where you're hanging around like more liberals and conservatives, and even though you might politically disagree with each other, I don't know. It's like this 50-50 thing where it's like I've known so many Republicans that are just super, super nice, even though they don't agree with any of the things that I've agreed with. And it's very neighborhoody, suburban-ish. The downtown is super, super small, but I really love the downtown. I mean, the downtown is a great city to learn how to live in a city.
No, I understand. I think I understand what you're saying. And I believe there's I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but there's a fairly well-known comedy club in Indianapolis. I believe.
Crackers Comedy Club.
Yeah, Crackers.
Yeah. I think it like closed and reopened under new ownership. It's kind of sad. The comedy clubs haven't really lasted a lot there. I mean, because there was Morty's Comedy Joint, which was my first open mic ever.
Oh yes, that's the one.
Is that the one you were thinking
of? Yeah,
of?
I was thinking of Morty's. Yeah.
And that's closed now. And then we
Oh,
had
I didn't know that.
Crackers, that's also incredibly famous, that closed and then reopened. And now Helium is pretty big in
Uh-huh.
Indianapolis.
Oh, cool. I didn't know Helium opened up there. That's nice. They
Yeah,
they know what they're doing.
yeah. I help I think there's a huge craving for comedy in the area. It's
Uh-huh.
just kind of hard because when things are more spread out, it's just harder to get people to. I mean, look, you see how hard it is in New York City to get people to show up to a show, and they have public transportation, walking, and
Yeah.
it's so much like it can be so close for them sometimes, and they won't even leave their front door to go to a show.
Yeah.
And Indianapolis is like people got to get in a car, drive through bad weather,
Mm-hmm.
like 30 minutes away just to watch a comedy show that might suck or maybe amazing.
Uh-huh.
So it's just like it's kind of hard to get people to show up on a daily basis.
Yeah, you're fighting different battles in the fight against the empty room, of which I know so well. Okay. And so Indianapolis, so there's definitely a presence for art there. And when you because I was kind of trying to like piece together like what I would define you as, because I met you doing comedy, but I also know you do stand up and you do improv. What did you start doing? Was it stand up or was it improv or sketch?
So I started doing stand up, and that is because in Indianapolis, when you're funny, you just do stand up. That's
Uh huh.
all that I kind of knew, even though I did not know that Chicago had an amazing improv scene in my backyard. I wish I would have had that knowledge. So
Yeah, like Second City, IO, like
my entire life could have been different had I known that information.
yeah,
Though
the entire cast of like SNL in like the 80s, in the 90s came out
I
of
didn't know
Chicago.
that.
Yeah.
And so I started doing stand up,
Uh huh.
and I just was working on that for a while.
Uh huh.
And man, like open mics aren't like they are here. They're a little bit more formal. And
Yeah, they feel open mics in other cities feel more like shows
yeah.
compared to New York or Los Angeles. I got you.
And I was doing it for about like a year strong or so. And then it really pissed me off. People kept calling me Aziz Ansari and kept saying that I sounded like Aziz Ansari and that I sounded so much like him and all that stuff.
Just because you're a quirky brown skin guy.
Just because I'm a quirky brown skinned guy.
That
And
sucks.
it just pissed me off so much. And I just took like a year away from comedy in general just because
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I need some time to figure out my voice.
Mm-hmm.
Because sure, there were some times and some moments where I sounded like Aziz, where it just would come out, but it's not like I was sounding like that 100% of the time.
Right, and I can't imagine like you're doing the same kind of stand up style as him either. I would imagine.
No, I wasn't, and especially at that point, I was doing a little bit more gimmicky. I mean, I guess he's kind of gimmicky. I was just trying a lot harder than I
Mm-hmm.
try now. Like it was just
Uh
felt
huh.
like there was so much pressure to make everybody laugh in a 5 minute mic.
Sure.
And I don't perform with that pressure anymore. So I started with stand up, and
Mm-hmm.
then when I moved to New York City, my roommate and my best friend Finest wanted to take an improv class. So I was like, I'll take one with you. And then we went through the whole improv program, and
Mm.
through naturally doing improv, I found sketch.
Okay. Yeah, because I've always put improv and sketch kind of in the same general wheelhouse, even though they aren't exactly the same. I just figure one is written and one's not. And how old were you when you started doing stand up?
I think I was 21.
Okay, so yeah. So I started at 23, so that's like a good age to start getting in there. And did you like stand up? Were you like watching specials? Or were you just like, this is what this I want to do comedy? This is how I do comedy here.
Well, two-prong story here. Two prongs. Prong number one is I knew by watching stand-up comedy and doing enough research of just looking up people that if I could break into stand-up comedy, I could break into other things like acting and directing and writing. Because I saw that Judd Apatow did stand-up. I saw
Mm-hmm.
that Woody Allen did stand-up. I saw that Jim Carrey did stand-up. Saw that Adam Sandler did stand-up. I mean, a lot of people do stand up, and it's probably because it teaches you how to just like focus your voice a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw that if I could get good at this one thing, then I could break into acting, which is what I really wanted to do when I was younger. I
Uh-huh.
really wanted to be an actor, and everybody told me that was a silly idea, a stupid idea, and that only tall, handsome, tan people make it. And so
Mhm.
I was like, okay, that's fine. But if I see these other comedians like Dane Cook doing movies, I know that
Yeah.
if I can do stand up, I can break into movies.
Yes.
Second,
There's actually there is a proven path for that to happen. Yes.
and then the second prong is going back to the retro conversation, the vintage
Uh-huh.
era. When I was younger, I was at my cousin's house and I remember him getting an email with the Russell Peters special, the very first one.
Uh-huh. I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was wearing a white shirt and the opening, he's like, "We are Indian and we are gay," like that joke. Like that's like the opening joke, I think.
Uh-huh.
And I
Yep.
remember watching that with him. And it was, so blurry and whatnot
Uh-huh.
compared to today's time. But I remember watching that with him. And him and I would watch so many stand-up clips together, and he lives in Canada, so like we would just YouTube stand-up clips like Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, and just like look at
Uh-huh.
them for hours. And so I, I had so many specials under my belt before I ever started doing stand-up.
Mhm.
And then while I was doing stand-up, I would go to my local library. And I mean, this is hilarious. I have not thought about a lot of this for a while, so it's
Mhm.
fun that I'm talking about this, my origin story.
Uh-huh.
But I had I had a library card, and I would go to the local library and borrow stand-up CD albums,
Uh-huh.
and I would listen to them in my car while I was like driving to work or driving anywhere, just so I could get so much better at it. And so Bill Cosby's CD album was one of the ones that I heard in my car. Robin Williams, Chris Rock greatest hits. I mean, there's just so many comedy albums that I would listen in my car over and over and
Mhm.
over again, just because I wanted to figure out how to be great. Because I don't want to just be good. I want to be great.
Yeah, and especially the comedy albums from that era, I felt were like there were just so many like super strong ones. And I don't know about you, but I've always found like doing like listening to comedy like with no video component, like really you have to hone in on like the writing being really strong because you can't rely on a big act out or a bit of physical comedy. Um, the way you can like if you're watching the show live or if you're watching it on DVD. Um, so I've always like when I was starting, I was like really trying to like hone in on like strength of writing and like joke structure and like all of that stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like just kind of focus on that. And I'd love to know what some of those albums were for you, because the really big lightning rod for me was Mitch Hedberg and the
Oh.
album Mitch Altogether. I just thought he was such a great writer. Werewolves and Lollipops by Patton Oswalt. That one was really big for me. I came back. I eventually went back and discovered. I think it's "Gangster the Memories" is David Tell's comedy album, which I think still is still very funny. Like it doesn't like it's not beholden to that era that it was recorded. It's still really funny.
Yeah.
So,
Those are good albums too that you picked.
oh yeah. So what were you listening to from the library? I'm curious what the library in Indiana would have.
I know, right? Well, the ones that I can just literally remember off the top of my head
Mhm.
are Robin Williams live at the Met.
Yep, that's a great one.
That one was pretty influential. I mean, I couldn't even see him, but I could hear him being physical.
Uh huh.
I could literally hear him being physical. I mean, that's crazy to think about. And that was the only, I think to this day, that's like the only Robin Williams stand up album that I've actually watched.
Uh huh.
Uh, but that one was pretty influential because I was like, I know I want to be something like this because it's so energetic and it's so stream of consciousness.
Uh huh.
I was like, I know I want to be something like this. Not exactly like this, but something.
Mm-hmm.
It was I don't know which Bill Cosby album it was, but I that was my first exposure to his stand up. And
Maybe like himself or To Russell, My Brother, who I slept with, or
I think it had a green cover.
Green Cover. I can't remember which one that one is, but go on. Okay, so Bill Cosby.
And I think it definitely, I know Chris Rock's greatest hits were on it, but it was like this like it's like a food item or something, I think is the album cover is like, but it just had his greatest hits in there.
Uh huh.
And that is hilarious.
Yeah, Chris Rock.
That is hilarious, man.
Yeah, that era of Chris Rock was amazing. I remember watching Bigger and Blacker on Comedy Central like after midnight, so all the curse words were still in, and like having like and just like this stuff about like the school, like he opens with bits about like school shootings because Columbine had just happened, or like all the stuff about Bill Clinton. I just remember like just like dying, like, oh my god, this is the coolest dude. And he's like, the thing about him is like he always like he's got a lot of like performance and attitude, but all of his stuff is very well written.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. And I mean, I remember I love Comedy Central. Love Comedy Central. I was on my channel at home all the time. But I remember watching the one where he like cuts it in 3 pieces. It's like,
Yep, I know the one you're talking about.
like he does it in Africa and like New York and somewhere else.
London. Yep.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the special, but I remember watching that, and that was really good too. Honestly, people always ask me who my favorite comedian is, or who I'm most inspired by, and that's always a hard question to answer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know, but like naturally, I almost always want to say Chris Rock
Uh-huh.
because
I
he
can see
is
that.
so funny.
He's amazingly funny. Like I cannot wait for the special to hear like the polished material about him getting slapped by Will Smith.
Yo, I mean, yeah. I mean, that might have been the greatest thing to happen to his career, because I mean, I saw one of his last live specials, like when he was on tour, and it was all right. It was all right. Like I think sometimes when you are so great, you just kind of maybe plateau sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Aaron Rodgers, the football. I'm just naming like all sorts of controversial people on your podcast.
Yeah.
But Aaron.
Yeah. Oh my
Aaron,
God, we got Kanye, Bill Cosby, Aaron Rodgers.
Oh man.
Well, you're gonna tell me you love Donald Trump's leadership style.
He
next.
would. I mean, but if you think about it, Donald Trump really led our country to play. I'm joking, guys. But Aaron Rodgers, I really like him as a player. He's a great athlete. And
Sure.
one thing he said on the Pat McAfee show, he was like, when people were talking about his down years, he's like, it's funny when people talk about my down years. My down years are some people's career years.
Yeah.
And for Chris Rock, like the special that I had saw, it's like a Netflix special. Like I also can't remember the name of.
Tambourine.
Wow, nice. Yeah, I saw that live when it was on tour.
Nice.
And it was cool. It was good. It just wasn't as great of a Chris Rock thing I had expected.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just because he kind of maybe fizzled out a little bit of like he doesn't have that same fire under his ass to be who he was when he really needed to be great at stand-up. Like he's kind of proven what he's needed to prove.
Yeah, like him in Tambourine is, I still thought it was very, very funny, but like his on stage persona was very different, I thought. But I love my favorite bit from that special is when he's talking about the overarching theme, because I love how his bits, a lot of them have like an overarching thesis, and then he proves it over the course of, like, I think on Never Scared, he talks about only the white man can profit from pain. He's like, now imagine the Philip Morris Company was like a bunch of, I'm not going to say the exact, but it was a bunch of black people from Mississippi. You know how illegal cigarettes would be?
Yeah.
Like that stuff. And he's doing the stuff about God doesn't make any mistakes. And one of the examples he gives is, you know, when you go to the Caribbean, that scary drive from the airport to the resort. And then when you get there, you're like, Jamaica's not, they give you one pina colada and you forgive the worst poverty you've ever seen. I just thought that was a brilliant joke.
Yeah. He has a million. I mean, like, even like the joke with the bullets, like, you know, let people buy as many
bullets
guns.
should need some bullet control. Yeah. Pretty ingenious stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah. He is phenomenal. And I think the Will Smith slap, like, you know, there's only one person that I think anyone really lost respect for, and one person that anyone kind of gained respect for. Or actually, you know what? Never mind. I forgot. There's some people that are like, yeah, Will Smith needs to defend his woman and stuff like that, right? I think I forgot about that. But in my head, I lost a lot of respect for Will. I get why he did it, especially because he's probably really stressed out, and it's probably not even him, it's his stress. but it's
Mhm.
coming through him. So I lost a lot of respect for the guy. But Chris Rock, man, I mean, he handled that so well. The fact that he stayed up there and handed out the awards still. I mean, there could be any number of comedians or any number of performers that might get like slapped and then they're just like it's an all-out brawl, you know? Like the
Uh-huh.
fight could have easily broke out, but the fact that he held his anger, I mean all those emotions. I can't handle a slap in private.
Right,
I can't
yeah.
handle us, let alone one of the biggest stages in the world.
Mhm.
Like he held it together. And so now that he has this, I think there's another fire under his ass because he knows people are expecting something great out of that. I mean, from the greatest pain comes the greatest comedy. And I think everybody's excited.
Oh my god, yeah. And I feel like especially I feel like now I feel like he's kind of over it, and Will Smith's kind of going to be carrying the weight of what he did around for the longest time. But I am hip to your point. My favorite thing is I feel like um after he says I'm going to, like, because Will's yelling at him from the crowd after he just got done slapping him, um you could see him kind of like I know he had some kind of like devastating retort, like locked and loaded, but he like thought better of it in the moment.
Yeah.
So I knew he could have just eviscerated either of them verbally. But I think he made like the correct choice in the moment for sure.
May we
Um,
all be that composed in stressful situations because that is amazing. And honestly, I thought my favorite response was just like, it was a GI Jill joke. Like I love how he's trying to. He's like, look, dude, it was a cheap joke. I get it, but are you serious?
yeah, well, yeah, and that's the kind of joke that like probably comes up like I don't we don't even know if he actually wrote that. Like one of the comics who gets hired to write for the Academy Awards could have written that. And if you think about it, like GI Jane,
Or
that's
GI Jane,
it's a
yeah.
strong, like she's not like a weak character that she was being compared to. Okay, so you love Chris Rock. You're doing stand up in Indianapolis, and then what's the path to New York for you? Were you in Indianapolis for long? Did you go to college in the area? Did you go
Yeah.
to college at all? Maybe.
Yeah, yeah. So I went to Indiana University, Purdue University of Indianapolis. So it's like this weird thing where IU and Purdue
Uh huh.
like combined forces to create a campus in downtown Indianapolis.
Okay.
And that's the university I attended. It's a commuter college, but
Gotcha.
it is honestly grown a lot more since I've left. A lot more people go to. It's actually a really great university and you get the attention that you deserve and I
Uh
really
huh.
enjoyed my time there. And I lived in Indianapolis my whole life. I was born
Mm.
in Detroit, but I was raised in Indy. I think of myself as a Hoosier. I am Mr. Indianapolis,
Gotcha.
right?
Yeah, because again, formative years.
Of course. So if there's something nostalgic for me, it's Indiana.
Uh huh. I got you. And what did you study?
I studied secondary English education, meaning
Uh huh.
I was going to become an English teacher for middle schoolers or high schoolers.
That is a rough age range to take on, and I applaud you for it because I remember seventh grade being like the worst year of my life.
Oh, yeah.
School year. I don't know about you, so like
That was the
taking
year I got like hardcore bullied. So I mean,
yeah, so taking on that age range and well my click of because I was like once I found the theater department I was like okay I don't need anybody else. I'm gonna just hang out with these people. But like, I found out later. I guess my school they would like if you were like a troubled kid in like Annapolis, Maryland, you would get sent down to my school to where I went to high school. But
oh,
that's neat.
yikes.
Okay,
Yikes.
so secondary education. Okay, so did you like T? So you probably had to like TA and stuff towards the end there.
Oh yeah, I probably spent like 500 hours in public school system,
Mm-hmm.
like just going there, and because you had to spend a certain amount of time throughout the program, but I would always exceed the amount of time that I had to do, just cause I was like, why not?
Yeah.
And I spent so much time in the classrooms, and I only ended up student teaching by the end of it. Like I never got into actually teaching in the classroom after student teaching
Uh huh.
because I was a server at an undisclosed name of a restaurant
Mm-hmm.
that I was having a blast at. I loved the people I worked with. I loved working there, and I was having so much fun. Just, I mean, man, I hope everybody has at least 1 year in their 20s where they actually had a good time. Most of my 20s, I've been having a great time.
Uh-huh.
So I was just learning how to go out. I was learning how to live in a city.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just was like, I'm not going to go into teaching. And then right around that time, I was like at a bar, the bar that we always used to go to, O'Reilly's.
Uh-huh.
It's an awesome bar in downtown, and it was an industry bar, so all of us are there. I just had this really weird,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I do. It's the ones that stay open for everyone else when they get off work.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a good place to have.
And they always hook you up too. And,
Hell yeah.
not too much, Joel, if you're listening to this. But I had this weird premonition, this weird feeling. And all of a sudden, I just was thinking, I'm going to move to New York this time next year.
Uh-huh.
And I had never had any sort of desire or thought or inkling about moving to New York.
Had you ever visited?
When I was a kid,
Uh-huh.
like I had not gone since I was like maybe in, I don't know, middle school or something, and it didn't have that much of an effect on me. I was here for a wedding, so it's not even like I got to explore or see anything.
Mm-hmm.
But
And where did this thought come out of? Like, what was happening at the time?
I just remember just kind of like, when you're zoning out a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of, I think, just zoned down. It like kind of just hit me, and it was like, I'm gonna move to New York. I'm gonna be in New York this time by next year. And I had just kind of like been doing a little bit of comedy here and there still,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew that was the next step for me. I always thought I'd be a California guy.
Yeah.
I always thought I would be in
Uh-huh.
California. And I think anybody that knows me was like, yeah, he's got California energy.
I could see it. Well, now that because my wife and I did a road trip in California this past summer, and I never really spent a ton of time there because for some reason I'd always been like a mid-Atlantic, East Coast kind of guy. But then I got out there and I was like, I get it. I understand what you're pushing here, California.
The weather's great.
Yeah, and there's just like a general, like you strike me as like very like you're ambitious guy, but like very laid back. So I could totally see you like, I don't know if you're like I don't know if you would go to like Los Angeles, San Diego, or something like that, and I could totally see you like ripping a few waves in the morning, like knocking out an audition, then hitting like second shift or something, and then doing something at the end of the day too.
I just
could
want
see
to
it.
say that ambitious but laid back is such a good description of myself that that may go on my Instagram bio after this. Right now, I have charming and charismatic, but I might put ambitious but laid back on there.
I would be humbled if you did.
I
that.
mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty good, Will. That's pretty good.
I mean, that to me is like because relate because I also like to see myself as that. I've heard that I'm heard, and I'm not saying like I see a lot of me and you, but I feel like I've also heard the descriptor of like, I'm a good soldier, but I'm maybe not like a self motivator is what has been told about me as well. So like, I'm good for like once started, like everything will get done exactly as it needs to, but I just need that thing to start the thing. But and then additionally, like when I think of like, cause I'm sure you know ambitious people that are annoying as fuck, like
Yeah.
super like fake and like networking all the time.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do know that, and it kind of irks me the wrong way. But I'm like, it shouldn't irk me because they're out here doing the same thing I am.
Yeah,
They're just doing it a little differently.
yeah. But I like your approach to it. I think you've got the right combination of like good to work with, reliable, and has plans.
Well,
It's good to have plans.
it's talking about the soldier thing. I've always kind of considered myself. I'm a natural leader, and I don't always want to lead. Sometimes I just want to relax, but I tend to be a natural leader in a lot of things that I partake in.
Uh-huh.
And I've always considered myself a natural leader because I am such a great follower. I think I'm a better
Hmm.
follower than I am a leader, but I'm still a good leader.
Uh-huh. Well, you'd kind of have to be if you were going into education
Yeah, yeah, but like being a
initially.
good follower is like so important. Like, I mean, I tell young comedians that were like coming through at the theater that I was working at, just, hey, you will be surprised at how much of this business is just related to you being professional, like responding on time, showing up early.
Yep.
It's so funny how much of that is reliant. I mean, I know so many people that can't even get to your message or email in a day.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why would I want to work with you again?
Yeah. I absolutely relate to that. Like, I would take someone who's a delight to be around and maybe not as funny over the much funny person who I can't stand being around at any time.
Or just, I would rather, in terms of, like, if someone's medium funny and someone's great funny, but the medium funny person is reliable and the great funny person isn't, I'm going medium funny. I just can't, because I've always been someone that does not like drama,
Mhm.
and I just don't. I'm not gonna put myself in a situation where I can't trust. Not and also I'm saying this like all these situations happen all the time. They don't really happen all the time. Most people are pretty decent about responding and stuff, but there have
Uh-huh.
been like a few situations. But I think even like just having straightforward conversations helps alleviate that. But
For sure.
I definitely just, it's like, I will say, if I know, like, if I've reached out to people to do shows or whatever, and
Mhm.
they're a little laggy on the response, a little bit delayed,
Mhm.
but like someone responds to me quickly and they say I can't make it. Every time I reach out to do more shows, I always ask the people that I know are gonna respond quickly on time, or like I'm not gonna have to wait 3 days for them to tell me if they're interested or available, right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff I was more so leaning toward, I think,
Mhm.
before I got on a tangent. Sometimes I just talk on a stream of consciousness, y'all.
No, that's what podcasts are for. And okay, and then so you realize you're going to be in New York, and then did you get to New York in that year? Was the premonition correct? How long did it take you to get here?
I had that premonition in August of 2017. Or no. Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, because I visited in April. Yeah. Okay, great. I had that premonition in August of 2017, and I signed a lease in October of 2018, but I officially started living in New York City November 2018.
Mhm.
And I did my very first solo comedy show in November of 2019.
Gotcha.
So just to take people through the journey that was, and I went through the improv program in like a year and like intensified it.
Mhm.
Like I was man, I was doing so much in my year of New York.
Uh-huh.
Like I was doing mics and I was doing improv jams. I was doing like 4, 5, 6 improv jams a week
Mhm.
while taking classes on Monday. I was watch I was watching like I was watching like 10 improv shows a week.
You're just seeing tons of stuff. Yeah,
Tons.
I know all about that area. Like you first hit the singing, you just see there's art everywhere, and you're just like, I got to get it all. I got to get it all. And how did you find the pit? Did you know about the pit before you got to New York?
I did not know about the pit.
Uh
I
huh.
did not. When I got here, my roommate wanted to take an improv class. I said I would take one with him,
Uh huh.
and I just took the charge. My roommate's kind of like just a go with the flow. Whenever things kind of
Uh
happen,
huh.
they'll fall into place. And I have subscribed to that sometimes, but I was just like, I'll look into this stuff and we'll figure it out for both of our
Mm-hmm.
schedules. And a coworker had told me about UCB,
Uh huh.
and I looked into UCB. It was pricier, but all the classes for level ones were like sold out.
Yeah, you feel like it's impossible to get into those classes.
And I didn't, I mean, I was told about like the brand recognition and the name recognition, but I did not really l- know about it or care about it too much. And then my old acting teacher from Indiana told me that she did the Pit and that she liked it more than UCB, and she thought I would too. So I found a class at the Pit. My level 1 instructor, Sarah Morganashi, amazing, made me fall in love with improv, and that's how I found the Pit. It was, and it was the weirdest class because it was Mondays 1 to 4 p.m. And it was sold out.
Wow.
Mondays 1 to 4 p.m. sold out, and then that's how my roommate and we went through the whole class, level 1 through master class at the Pit.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome, man.
Yeah,
That's
man.
awesome. 1 to 4. That's like not you'd think that would be like an easier time to get. That's amazing. So you just like get in there and like just take to it.
Oh yeah, I mean, Indiana was just nothing else like this, right? There was not an improv school that I was aware of. That we had comedy sports, but we didn't have like long form. And the jams really made me fall in love with it.
Yeah.
I was going to jams, and I mean, I was like, I can't believe I can just get on stage with nothing prepared and just practice being funny.
Yeah. And what is an improv jam exactly?
An improv jam is just people show up to the theater and they pay like $3-5 maybe, or sometimes it's free, and you just get up with groups of like 6 or 7 people and you perform sets of improv. So imagine like different band members coming together and just jamming out and just kind of messing around, trying to come up with like a melody or something. That's what an improv jam is like. We're just trying to find like a sketch, kind of like trying to find a really funny bit or something cool to follow a thread. And I got addicted. And I have an addictive personality, and man, improv really took it over. For 2019, I was improv insane.
Amazing. I remember those times so well. I remember being a doorman at a club, probably the same owner of Morty's, that had a club in New York, the Laughing Devil. I remember being a doorman there and just seeing so much great comedy and meeting so many great comedians and like dealing with hecklers that weren't my own. Like just being in that environment was so like defining. It's just like you never forget those kind of like defining times. It's like really, really cool.
No, I agree, because I went so into improv and I got really into it, and hanging out at the bar afterwards, talking to people is how I found out about SoloCom, which is a solo comedy festival run by the Pit. And that's when I got the opportunity to do my very first solo show, which is never something I'd ever thought about.
Yeah.
And it was called Taxi Cab Driver. It was a short film idea that I turned into a solo show because I only had 3 days from when I found out to the deadline submission.
Okay.
And they want you to come up with something brand new. So in my show, it was about this guy whose father passes away, who owned a taxi cab company, and he inherits that in a time when Uber and Lyft are taking over. And
amazing.
Thank you.
Really interesting idea.
Thank you so much. And it's a solo show,
Uh-huh.
right? And so because of improv, it led me to doing my very first solo show. And because I did that solo show, I was able to do the Asian Comedy Festival, where I was able to open up for Michael Cruz Kane, who is a comedian bigger than me currently, that like does stuff with Colbert on, at least for that show, the late night show. I don't know, is it Late Night with Colbert?
It's the Late Show.
It's the Late Show. I don't, they're all late something. I don't know which noun they're using for which show. I just know Jimmy Fallon, Kimmel, Colbert, yada yada. But I got to open up for him, which was really cool because he had just done a set on Seth Meyers and he had just promoted the festival.
Cool.
And it was also the day Kobe died, so that was sad. But I got to open up for him, and because of that, I was just so much more well prepared coming out of the pandemic, and really in my head just gearing for another solo show.
Yeah.
Because after the pandemic, or after, I guess, the primary pandemic, because it's still going on.
Lockdown.
That's right.
The heavier restrictions.
Yes. After quarantine, I helped reopen the Pit. The very school that gave me so much in New York is the school that the theater that I helped reopen. And when I quit, a month after is when I did my latest solo show, Dream Come True, which is like which, circling back to what you liked about Bill Cosby, It is a storytelling stand-up special of mine
Uh-huh.
that I released independently on YouTube. Wow, I'm about to tie so many things together.
Uh-huh.
And talking about vintage stuff, back in my day, downloading mixtapes was really cool.
Mhm.
I feel like I just dropped my very first mixtape.
Nice. Dude, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great, man. You're like just and again, you got this sort of coming to my worlds of like the DIY punk scene where you just kind of you want to make stuff happen, you just figure out a way to make it happen. Just making stuff happen for yourself and I love to see it. That's great, man.
No, thanks, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it a lot. I just you having your own podcast and having me on here has been an absolute treat.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. And I would love to ask you a little bit more about the solo show thing because like I'm very hip to like I like that stuff as well. I've done solo shows before too. Do you think of it as more like so these you would this would be more of like a theater piece that you're performing for yourself? Is it more of like a storytelling show or are you playing different characters by yourself in the show?
So the very first time I did it, taxi cab driver, I played characters throughout. Like I wasn't
Uh-huh.
even myself as the main character.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I mean, that was just a choice I made because I wanted to make it flow as smoothly as possible because I hate solo shows.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to just watch you monologue. All right, I've
Right,
seen
like
bad solo shows.
the caricature of like the like my dad drank a lot like
Yeah,
and I had trouble child like there's the trope of the one man show.
yeah. And luckily, Solocom did not have a lot of that,
Uh-huh.
and so I definitely didn't want to do it that way. And then this time, I was just more like, okay, I need to put out a stand up thing, and I never thought I was gonna get as sentimental as I did in this special, and I really tried to dig deep into things that I don't talk about a lot, not because I'm like pained by them. I just don't talk about them because it's not coming up in conversations naturally, I guess.
Mhm.
But when I talked about these things with people, these stories, they would always act so surprised. They're like, I can't believe you went through that. To me, it was always just normal.
Yeah.
And so when I was compiling it together, I kind of I wanted to do a lot more transitional stuff, some more I guess gimmicky things now that I'm going back and looking back on it
Uh-huh.
cuz I want the audience to feel like an hour hasn't gone by. And I thought that the only way to really do that is by like making different set pieces or just like changing it up like
Uh-huh.
and like having clear moments like a halftime kind of thing and just showing it that way. But I have because I used to have a lot of self-interactive elements
Mhm.
in my last show. I only have about two self-interactive elements and I have a poem. So like the first 6 minutes of
Hmm.
my show isn't even funny.
Uh-huh.
And the stand-up storytelling part, I would say about 25 to 30 minutes is actually funny, but there's just a lot of jam-packed emotional stuff in there. I'm
Right.
talking about my journey as a first-generation Indian American and kind of what it feels like to be a millennial as well.
Right.
So I talk about a lot of that in a matter of 55-ish minutes, and
Mhm.
I honestly I'm really glad the way that it turned out because this one was all me. Like I don't play a character. I play myself the
Uh-huh.
whole way through. And even the poem that I recite, I've had since 2017.
That's great. That's great, man. Like I love when performers take those turns into like the personal and really start mining that stuff. So that's fantastic. And are you still that's online now or are you still performing that show?
It's on YouTube if anybody wants to watch it. It's a dream come true. Dot dot dot.
Okay. You
And
drop me a link. I'll put it in the description.
I will, dude. I will. And I am trying to perform it more at like fringes
Uh-huh.
and fringe festivals just to get even the word out there a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think if I do make it to Edinburgh, that'll be the last time I do it.
Yeah.
I'll call it a close then. But right now I'm open to doing it still because I feel like there's a lot of things in there that I don't even really talk about, which
Uh-huh.
I think is great because that honestly gives me more room for another show later on down the line.
Yeah.
but I would be happy if I never performed it again.
Mm-hmm.
I would be happy if I got to perform it 5, 6 more times. So
Excellent.
right now, I don't have any plans until something good reaches out,
Mm-hmm.
or unless I reach out for something better. I don't want to perform at the same level. I want to be like a Mike Birbiglia, perhaps.
Yeah,
I,
he's a big influence on mine too. I know.
I love him. My girlfriend's boyfriend
Mm-hmm.
is one of my favorite specials, and I would be lying if I didn't say him and Bo Burnham influenced me. That's why I wanted to do a lot more like transitional stuff. I can't sing, so I have to do a lot more self-interactive elements
Mm-hmm.
uh, where Bo Burnham can sing. But him and Mike Birbiglia have been huge influences on me, and so that's why I was so comfortable with the storytelling aspect of this special versus just making it stand-up jokes,
Mm-hmm.
because I really wanted to put something out there that I didn't think there was a lot of.
Right. Yeah, and I feel like American comedy audiences especially are just now being exposed to what I would call the Edinburgh style show. The sort of like thematic longer form, maybe not funny for maybe there aren't laughs every few seconds like when you're doing stand up in a club, but it takes you there's more of an arc to it, and it's different, but it's equally engaging. I think. I feel like, and I would love to ask you this because I love to like create goals and manifest stuff on the shows. Do you feel like you know what your next show is going to be? I feel like, and I don't know if you would ever do this. I feel like there's a show to be made, if you've never been to India, about going to India to like do like a trace your roots sort of thing.
I have been to India several times. I might be actually going again this upcoming year.
Mm-hmm.
It's not finalized yet, but I might be going. And that is in the back of my mind, just like how this visit is going to be. Because my parents are old, and who knows how many more trips I have with both of them in India,
Uh huh.
especially with like my schedules going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I do in my head know what my next special would be. I mean, I always thought my first special would be called "Do You Know How to Speak English?" But it ended up being called "A Dream Come True" because it matched more of what I was feeling at the time. Right now, I think my next special would be called "Critic of God." And
I like that title.
thanks, man. I really like that title too. I really like that title a lot,
Uh
and
huh.
it's because I have a lot of like. I think it's great that we have a lot of people out here that are like, yeah, go God. God's the best. But also, I feel sometimes as humans, like if you're an atheist, you're willing to criticize the living crap out of anything,
Mm-hmm.
even out of God, because you don't really think that God exists. And like, if you're agnostic, it's whatever. But as someone who wants to believe, who does kind of believe that something bigger out there exists, I have a lot of questions. And I'm also like, hey, I don't know if anyone has actually told you this. So here's just, for your own benefit, maybe I can help you out,
Mm-hmm.
because I just think that one thing I've learned last year was just if you ask for something, it comes out it comes out a lot more than you would think. Like if you just ask for something out loud, like even this podcast, I told you that I was like, I had just posted on like Facebook,
Uh
like,
huh.
hey, someone please put me on your podcast. I want to be on a podcast. And then we do the sketch show, and out of nowhere, you were like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
all the people on
Yeah,
this sketch
it's
show.
like you guys are all cool. I want to get you all on. Yeah.
And so I could not believe it. And I was just now kind of getting into the let's ask for things out loud more often. And
Mm-hmm.
so the whole idea behind this this next special is gonna be just all the questions and critiques I have for someone who is benevolent and all knowing, and why in the living hell they would do some of the stuff that they're doing.
That's a really interesting take on it because I feel like most would approach that question and lead it to a nihilistic place, or again, like they're down the road to atheism. And I feel like that's been examined a lot. But the idea of someone like wanting there to be something else, or wanting there to be a next step to a life after this, like having that baseline, and then trying looking for answers to hard questions, is a and hearing hard answers. I feel like there's a lot of material to be mined there.
Yeah, and I think it'll be controversial in a good way because I think there's going to be some people that listen to this and honestly they're going to hurt my feelings in the comments. And I'm not Gen Z, but I'm not afraid to say I'm sad if they hurt my feelings. But I'm sure a lot of people will be like, "This guy's an idiot. How dare he say stupid idiot? God's way better than you'll ever know, you heathen. You're going to hell." I'm sure I'll get a bunch of that, but also I think there's going to be a bunch of people that relate on the same level as me where they're like, "Yeah, what the hell is going on? This shit doesn't make sense. Like,
Yeah.
why can't I eat fried chicken every single day? Are you kidding me? Are you serious? Like, out of all of like the cardinal sins, fine, I won't fuck my neighbor's wife. Fine, I'll try to be nice. I won't steal. But you're gonna make eating fried chicken bad for me? I'm gonna get a heart attack? Like that is where I just draw the line. Like some of these things that are bad for us cannot be. They should not be. And if we can make an amendment to that, like smoking weed should not be this harmful to your health. Like if you drink alcohol, you should like not be as screwed as you are. Some of these things that help us feel good should not be so harmful to us. What are you doing? We gotta meditate every single day. We gotta not eat fried foods, not eat anything that like tastes good, and it's gotta be raw. You gotta be a vegetarian now. You can't do any intoxicants.
Yeah, and you got to drink this leaf water. So that's healthier than the.
Then coffee. Are you see? We think like all the spiritual like gurus and books that I've read because I've read a lot of spiritual texts because I'm just looking for answers. I'm just looking for answers. A lot of them I've read, they're like coffee's bad for you too. Like you shouldn't drink caffeine, and I'm just sick of it. I'm tired because I'm like there should not be this many things that are bad for us and available. Take some of them away or make some of them better.
Right. Well, I hope you find some of the answers that you're looking for, Sunny. But I have. This has been great, man. I've enjoyed chatting with you. Is there anything we can plug before we get out here?
Oh man, this has been really really great. Yeah, there's three things. My solo show, you've heard me mention it several times. Please watch it on YouTube. Subscribe, like, comment. Even if they're mean comments, that's fine too. My feelings will be hurt, but it'll push the algorithm.
Almighty algorithm.
And all hail the algorithm. And then the second thing is Sunny and Mike Hour, which is a 2-person improv team. I am one of the two. It's also on YouTube. Just YouTube Sunny and Mike Hour. You should be able to find it. And the last one is also a podcast that I've had the privilege to work on. It is executive produced by Mark Evan Jackson and Nate DeFort, and it is called Sounds Funny Radio. It is a completely improvised podcast. It's really, really fun, and it's not available yet, but hopefully it will be available soon. You can watch some of our stuff. Follow us on Instagram, on YouTube.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
Dude, thank you so much for having me, Will. This has been awesome.
Okay, that's Sunny Outlaw, everybody. Check the link to his YouTube channel in the description, as well as a bunch of other things that Sunny does. Energetic guy, ambitious guy. I like his vibe. I find it inspiring. Doing a lot of stuff on his own, which is sort of my mode of operating at the present moment, has been for a while. So thank you all again so much for being here. And if you enjoyed this podcast and feel like you know a friend who would be interested in listening as well, you can send them to awesomedisaster.com. That has links to everything related to me and what I do, has links to everywhere that you can get the podcast. We're on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcasts. If you want to give us a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or a follow on Spotify or Stitcher, that helps other people find the show as well, boosts us in the almighty algorithm. As we are wont in the digital age, we every little bit of help with the computer gods I sincerely appreciate, and ratings and reviews are one way to do that. And if you want to go a little bit further in supporting the show, we have links to our merch store as well as our Patreon at awesomedisaster.com as well. You can get some cool Between Awesome and Disaster swag and some exclusive content, and I will be doing a lot more regular stuff with the Patreon in 2023. And if you want to follow me on all my socials, links to are there as well. You can also send me a message. I'm at willcarry23 on Instagram, at comic willcarry on Twitter, and at willcarry on Hive and Mastodon. We'll see which one of those sticks around in the long run. So thank you all again so much for being here. I hope you have a productive, I hope the 2023 you have is the one that you want, and there are good things for you on the horizon. So thank you all again so much for being here, and let's see what we can make of this year. I will see you next time between awesome and disaster. Stay safe, wear a mask, get vaxxed and boosted, and stomp out fascism. Take care, everybody.